Hey everybody, welcome back to the weekend. I hope you're all having a good internet today. Have you ever felt like life just isn't fair? Well, the old lady in this story can really attribute to that. So I was getting a drink at Starbucks and my total was $2.95 after a 10-cent discount for bringing a personal cup. An older lady in the line behind me, maybe mid to late 50s, said, "Oh, that sounds good. I'll have what she's having." Because she didn't have a personal cup, her total was $3.05. She argued with the poor cashier for about 5 minutes, insisting that it's just bad service to serve two people the same drink for a different price based on the container it's served in. The cashier then suggests she bring a personal cup next time if she had one, and then pointed to the display cups they had for sale, to which she replied, "So I can give you free advertising? No way, I'm not an idiot." And then she proceeded to pay for her drink in only coins, most definitely out of spite. All of this for 10 cents. Man, that sure is rough. I don't know what I would do if I ran into that kind of problem. You know, you're really hurting Starbucks by not carrying their cup around. They're just a small, up-and-coming little coffee shop, and you need to advertise for them by carrying a cup with their logo around. It's really the only way they get their name out there, you know. Alright, and let's move on to the first full story from Pro Revenge called "Take All the Credit for My Work and Tell the Boss I'm a Terrible Employee? Well, it was because of me that you got fired." So I used to work in a marketing role in a government department. I was part-time and worked along with a girl, who I'll call Karen, who was working on a yearly contract. She'd been there for 2 years and was very friendly with the department manager, and this was the reason her contract kept being renewed. When my manager went on maternity, Karen got temporarily promoted to the management role. This caused a lot of upset in the office, as there were a number of more suitable and more qualified people who didn't get the chance to act up. As soon as Karen became my manager, everything changed. My workload increased, and as I was part-time, I had to absolutely bust my butt to meet project deadlines. All of a sudden, I wasn't being included in staff briefs on new projects, yet was expected to work on them. My department manager was acting really off with me too. This went on for a few months before I approached my department manager and asked to discuss my workload. She sat me down and basically told me that I really needed to get my act together, as Karen was having to pick up my workload and it was affecting her output because I was, in Karen's words, so lazy I should be fired. I told the manager what was going on and the actual work I was doing, but she took Karen's side and said I was just assisting with some parts of the project, and it was ridiculous of me to claim I was managing and completing so many projects on my own. So I started making mistakes. Simple things, adding wrong briefs for designers, not including prices, adding incorrect budgets, and deadlines that were 2 days out, etc. Karen started to get pulled by various managers, asking why she was making so many mistakes. Then I knew for sure she was passing off my work as her own. She called me in for a meeting and exploded. I walked out. She had began complaining about me to the teammates, saying how lazy I was. My friends began to tell me what was going on. One friend informed me that Karen was online for an average of 5 hours a day planning her upcoming wedding in Spain and was using the office phones to make international calls to the wedding planners. He could see her screen and couldn't believe how lazy she was. So she was planning her wedding while I was busting my butt. So I decided to skip talking to the managers and went straight to HR. I told them to have IT monitor her internet usage and her outgoing calls. I said I could prove that she was lazy and she was relying on me. I was obviously able to show email trails and the project documents I had completed and she had taken and saved down as her own. 2 weeks later, Karen was called to HR and told her contract was not being renewed and she was given 1 month's notice. She told everyone it was because of budget cuts. My department heads brought me in for meetings to apologize and commend me on my excellent work, and I got a promotion. I left a couple months later. If they had believed me in the first place, I wouldn't have endured so many months of stress and anxiety. This is just like the old trick of, if somebody's cheating off your homework, just start writing down the wrong answers first so that they get them all wrong. Alright, now into an entitled parent story called "EntitledMom Wants a Family Dog on the Plane and Mentions a Bomb." So I'm seated a few rows behind a family of 4, and boarding is nearly complete. The family daughter, the entitled kid, is sobbing, and it gets more and more audible as more people get on and in their seats. Finally, entitled mother gets a hold of the flight attendant and demands her to ask the captain one more time if they could have their dog in the cabin instead of the pet compartment. The flight attendant tries to explain that their dog is too large and has to travel separately. This provokes the entitled kid to cry even louder, and the flight attendant tries to explain how it is perfectly safe for animals to travel in their designated compartment underneath the passengers. The fuss starts to attract attention, and someone close to my row announces their severe allergy to dogs to the family and the flight attendant. The entitled mom raises her voice and demands the flight attendant to dig their luggage and dog out of the plane, as they will find another airline that allows all family members in the cabin. At this point, the plane is full and doors are closed, and it seems the captain is waiting for confirmation from the crew to start rolling towards the takeoff strip. The flight attendants try to explain how they would have to go through all the luggage to find theirs, and how that would delay the flight. The entitled mom is having none of it and very clearly articulates, "You would turn back in an instant and go through it if there was a bomb, wouldn't you?" All movement and chatter stops, and the flight attendant goes very serious. "Please remain seated. We will see what we can do." It takes less than a minute for police to arrive and escort the family out, 10 more to get their luggage and the dog, and another 5 for the flight to take off. Seeing the mad, angry husband with the crying kids watch their mom put into a police car was the best start for a holiday I've had in a long time. Man, the words you use in an airport and around planes is almost as strict as the language you have to use when making YouTube titles. If you say even one wrong word, everyone gets freaked out, and the next thing you know, you're in handcuffs. Not speaking of personal experience, of course, but... So the reason I compare airport security to the YouTube bot is because, so anytime I try to upload a video, and I'm filling out the title and the description and the tags and all that and the thumbnail, there's a bot that tries to detect any inappropriate content and all of that stuff. And if it's considered inappropriate, then it flags the video, which makes it so it's demonetized, which if all it did was reduce my revenue, like I wouldn't care that much, but it also really hinders its search and discovery, so I only get like a fifth of the views on a video that's flagged or something, so I'm pretty vigilant about trying to keep it up. But just as some examples, remember yesterday's video how it's called Controlling Ant Tries to Decide What We All Should Eat? Well, that was originally supposed to be called Control Freak Ant Decides What We Are Supposed to Eat, but apparently the word freak was too inappropriate. Or like a few days ago, there was a video called something like, Hurt the Neighborhood, I'll Have Your Whole Party Towed. That was supposed to be Ruin the Neighborhood, I'll Have Your Whole Party Towed, but of course the word ruin is too inappropriate for YouTube titles, so that flagged the video. It's pretty ridiculous. Alright, this one's called Today I Effed Up as a Zombie. So I worked as an undead and an unpaid cast member in my friend's zombie movie. Yesterday was the end of production, prompting the cast and crew to go ham all night long. Both the living and the dead were completely drunk in no time. So I came home around 2 this morning in full zombie makeup. I was staggering all over the apartment, knocking into chairs and stepping on chargers and crap. Never be an undead drunk in the dark, folks. Eventually my room appeared in front of me. All I had to do was simply open the door, walk in and go to bed. Done. No fuss, no mess, no stupid F-up post. But there I was, pausing in front of my room with an ominous grin on my face. I turned around and snuck into my roommate's room. Zombie walked toward his bed and climbed on top. I stood over my unconscious roommate in a crooked posture with my arms out. I cleared my throat and did my most awesome zombie growl. Or something like that. The night lamp went on and that's when I said, "I'm gonna feast on your soul." Little did I know, it wasn't my roommate lying on the bed. It was my roommate's freaking fiancé. I said, "Ah, crap," the moment I noticed, but it was too late. The fiancé screamed her lungs out and kicked me in the balls. I plummeted to the ground, cupping my nuts and groaning in absolute agony. So my roommate stormed into the room and found his frantic fiancé and zombie fiend friend both in tears. Drunk me had no knowledge of my roommate's fiancé being in town, nor that he would be in the bathroom when she was in the bedroom. Yeah, there's nothing that ruins a prank more than accidentally doing it on the wrong person. That reminds me, my dad and his brothers used to all work in like the same office for a long time. And it was mostly like family businesses all in this office. Every once in a while, they would try and like scare each other as they would come through the front door. And so one of my uncles, he was waiting behind the door because he was expecting his brother to be coming through the door. And as the door opened, he jumped out and yelled, "Ah!" But it wasn't his brother, it was the postman. And he's just like, what are you doing? But I guess that's just the risk you have to take when you're pulling shenanigans on people. Alright, this one's from Tales from Retail called When Shoplifters Lose Their Minds. So when I worked in a thrift store, theft was always a big issue, and it was always hard to track even with the full staff. We have our regulars, and some of those regulars have been banned. This is one of them. I was doing my thing and stocking merchandise on the sales floor when I noticed a regular thief making her rounds. We'll call her RT for short. She smiles at me as she pursues the clothing section with an open backpack hanging from her shoulder. We have a policy where backpacks are checked in at the cash wrap to prevent theft. I ask RT if she minds checking her bag in, and she obliges and goes back to looking at her stuff. I then do some work-related stuff on my own until I get flagged down by an assistant manager. They pull me aside and tell me that the backpack RT had on her shoulder belonged to us, and the contents inside also belonged to us. I was also instructed not to give the backpack back to her should I end up cashing her out. The store manager stations herself near the cash wrap along with the assistant manager standing next to the cashier. Apparently they were watching the security cameras. I was on fitting room duty as I watched the whole situation unfold. It was like watching a train wreck. You can't look away, but you can't help but stare. RT approaches the cash wrap with her items and asks for her backpack to be returned to her. The assistant manager calmly and politely tells her no. That backpack belongs to the store, and if she wants it, she can pay for it. RT loses her marbles and starts screaming and cussing and pitching a massive tantrum, big enough to get the attention of the whole store, both employees and customers. So the store manager tells RT that she is no longer welcome and banned from the store, something my coworker wanted to have done for a long time, and if she stayed and pitched a bigger hissy fit, the police would be called. RT continued her tirade for about a minute or so and left empty-handed. Don't shoplift, kids. Yeah, thrift stores are a weird thing to steal from because most of the things there are donated, so the store technically got them for free, and then everything in the store looks used, so it's harder to tell what's stolen and what's not. I've even been in a thrift store and I've seen like shoes on the rack that you can tell that those shoes were not donated. Somebody came in and just changed shoes with one of the ones on the rack and then just left their old ones on the shelf. Thrift store businesses have just got to be weird to keep track of. Alright, now for entitled person takes my car and gets nicked by firearms officers. So a quick wee story. This happened in the UK, so don't mind my British twang. After a day of being an adult, myself and a mate went into KFC for a munch, finishing up our boneless banquet and drinking the last dips of the KFC gravy. We head back to my car. It was a fair size of car park, and I parked so far away. Once I got close to the car, I couldn't find my car key. I searched every pocket and orifice on my person. A blind panic started to set in. I legged it back to the KFC, searched high and low, retracing my steps back to car, hoping that I dropped it at my hole somewhere. At one stage, I did notice this chap in a yellow hoodie walking around searching, and I thought he was looking for his car. Still in a fizz looking for my keys, I got close to my car and seen that some chap in a yellow hoodie got into my car and started to drive away. Oh man, I've never ran so quick before in my life and jumped in front of that car. So the entitled prick says, "What the heck?" I slam my fist onto the bonnet. He says, "Oi, don't you dare hit my car." I said, "What? Your car? It's my bloody car. Get out." He says, "This is my car. Move out of the way or I'll run you over." I said, "It's my car. Take a look at the driver's license and the sun visor." He says, "Doesn't matter. I found the key on the floor. Possession is 9/10 of the law, you know." My mate says, "What the heck does that mean?" I say, "Very funny, pal. Out." The prick then starts to move the car while I'm still standing in front of it, blaring the horn. My mate trying to open the car door, which makes the prick put his foot down. Car sped off just before me jumping out of the way, and the prick ended up smashing into parked cars. I say, "Go and rip him out. Smash the window if you have to. I'm gonna call the police." My mate was trying his best to get the guy out of the car while I was on the phone to the police, giving them all the details. The prick says, "This is my car. Go away. You dropped the keys, so I found it, so it's mine." My mate says, "Are you a child? Is this a game of finders keepers?" He says, "Go away. You're trying to assault me. I will be phoning the police." I say, "Oh, don't worry, mate. They're on their way." 30 seconds later, 3 police Land Rovers, a police van, and a police car all rush to the scene. Entitled prick just jumps out of the car and straight away starts shouting that it's his car and that we were trying to hijack him. The firearms officer then got out of the Land Rover with firearms drawn, ordering entitled prick to the ground and arresting him. While this was all happening, me and my mate were off to the side, and all we hear is the prick pleading with the police that we were the aggressors and it's his car, and that he found the key. What the guy didn't know is that locked away in my car boot were 2 high-powered rifles and 2 shotguns with ammunitions that we use for hunting. I hear the officer charging the guy with theft of a motor vehicle, driving without insurance, criminal damage, and illegal possession of firearms. The guy's face was priceless. Me and my mate gave our statements, showed our firearms certificate, and let go, and the entitled prick got to spend the night in the cop shop. After that, my mate got his missus to pick us up, and I sorted out recovery of my car when we went to the pub and laughed about this crazy story. I haven't heard anything recent about this, as it only happened a few months ago. If I find anything out, I'll pop up an update. Man, I have such a hard time reading these stories that have such foreign terms and also bad grammar in them. So wait, if you find somebody's car keys, that means you can just take them and then you now own the car? Man, I've missed so many opportunities over the years. But really, like, didn't he ram the car into a bunch of parked cars? Wouldn't it be all busted up at that point? Well, that's a lot of charges to rack up in such a short amount of time. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find an Ask Reddit question of the day that I liked enough to put in this video, so we're just going to replace that with one big final story from entitled parents called Entitled lady tries to get me thrown off the plane. So I'm studying in the US, but I live in India, so I'm flying back to my hometown on a roughly 24-hour journey. Some backstory: I'm the worst kid for an Indian parent. I'm a boy with long hair, I smoke, I drink, I eat non-vegetarian. India has like 100 languages, and I speak 3 of them. Lastly, maybe I was smelling like cigarettes. I tried to cover it up with my deodorant, and I was pretty sure I was fine until the entitled lady. So the airline I was flying with is reputed, but they were running a couple hours late. So there was a general frustration in the crowd of many Indians, most of whom had a connecting flight which was supposed to leave in an hour once they landed at the stopover. So the airline was trying to rush everything as much as possible. I generally like being seated at the end as I was talking to the staff. They have some of the best stories you will ever hear. It was one of those double-decker Airbus A380s, and I had the window seat in the end of the plane, but by the time I reached there, it was already occupied by a lady who was about 50. She basically ordered me to take her aisle seat. I was fine with it because I get to talk, and you don't want to argue with elderly Indians. So this plane has 3 columns. I was on the right. By the time I settled, I noticed a very elderly lady in the middle column who was trying to convey something in Malayali, which I don't understand. But with signs, I figure out she was hurt on one hand while she was boarding the plane. I get the air hostess to give her some medicine and ice. I also find someone who speaks Malayali, but he doesn't speak English, so he translated what the lady said, I translated what he said, and the air hostess wrote down what I said. So while all this was happening, the entitled lady has made herself comfortable and taken the middle seat and put pillows on the headrest and is comfortably sleeping. She was clearly intruding on my space, but once again, taking into account her age, I decided it was best for me to not say anything. So the nice hostess asks me if I know either the entitled lady or the injured lady. I reply no. She's like, I'm extremely sorry for entitled lady, and thank you so much for helping with injured lady. Our first meal is served. I have non-veg with whiskey while the entitled lady is sleeping. The injured lady has calmed down, the nice hostess is free, and we're talking. She tells me that someone down the plane had a mild heart attack, but he was attended by a couple doctors and was pretty stable. Everything is going fine, till it's time for the second meal, and entitled lady is awake. The nice hostess comes back with the cart and starts asking everyone what they want. She asks me, but once again the entitled lady says she'll take vegetarian. The nice hostess gives me a look implying that she's sorry, and I just smiled back. I then ask for non-vegetarian with a whiskey, and all hell breaks loose. She says, "Excuse me, are you serving an underage kid whiskey?" She says, "Ma'am, he's not underage, and I would ask you to not intrude on his space." She says, "I'm sorry, but he is clearly 16. I'll check his passport and prove you wrong." Then she grabs my bag. Now for some dumb reason, I thought it would be funny to let her search it for my passport, which I had in my pocket, but oh boy was I so wrong. She finds a pack of cigarettes and a jewel. She pulls them out and starts shouting, "Who do you think you are getting these illegal things when you are underage and sitting next to me?" The hostess says, "Ma'am, I have to ask you to return his belongings and stop disturbing the passengers, otherwise I will have to call the pilot." Then she says to me, "I'm so sorry, please give us your details, you can have extra points in your account and an extended stay on our account." The lady says, "Call the pilot, let him see the vile things going on in this flight, and he does not deserve anything. If anyone deserves anything, it's me. He is destroying my religion." The hostess leaves to get the pilot. The lady then tries to get the other passengers to turn against me. Now bear in mind, these passengers have been woken up by her shouting on a 13-hour flight and are clearly irritated, so naturally, no one gives her any attention. "How are you eating non-vegan sitting next to me? I'm a pure vegetarian and you are destroying my religion." He's like, "Hey, I'm eating what I like and this is a free country. Please calm down, I just want to finish my meal." Now I'm very passionate about my hair, and if someone I don't know tries to give me crap for it, I tend to reply quite harshly. She says, "Your generation pay no heed to our scriptures, eating non-vegetarian, drinking, and having such untidy hair." And I lost my crap. I say, "Look lady, I don't give a crap what you think. I have to put up with enough of your crap. First you intrude my personal space, then you don't let me enjoy my meal, and now you're commenting on my appearance. If you say one more thing, I will lodge an official complaint with the airline and you will be on the no-fly list for a while. So you better get your crap together." So then another passenger says, "Look guys, please calm down. There's no need to fight in a flight." The lady says, "My son is a lawyer in New York City and he's going to file a case and get your visa canceled and you'll never get in the US. Now the hostess is back with the pilot who is visibly annoyed. So then the entitled lady sees the pilot's here and she gives him the whole rundown. The pilot says, "Ma'am, I'm going to say this once before lodging an official complaint against you with the airline and the UAE police." The lady is now visibly shaken. All her options have closed. She says, "I'm going to sue this airline." I say, "That is for our legal department. I'm telling you for the last time, you are not allowed to talk to this man, and if you stir up any problems, you will be reported." The lady says nothing, while the hostess escorts me to a different section of the plane. I could not get an upgrade as all the seats were full, but it was still much better. Later, the hostess tells me that the entitled lady was reported again for kicking the seat of the passenger in front of her in anger, and the pilot had lodged an official complaint against her, and there was going to be police waiting for her as soon as the plane lands, and there were ambulances waiting for injured passengers. I had to give testimony, but there was no police action against her, but she is on the no-fly list now. Man, I can't even imagine sitting on a plane for that long. I think the longest plane flight I've ever been on was like 4 hours. So, if you've got one that lasts like all day, it seems like you're just basically trapped into making a full episode of some drama TV show. Because it seems like a lot of things happen on this one single flight. Anyways, that does it for all of the stories for today. We had a lot of short ones. Hope you guys are having a good weekend, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. So, thanks for watching.